The world as we know it is shaped by power, money, and resources. But beneath the surface, there is a hidden force that has dictated global politics for decades: the petrodollar system. While wars are often justified with claims of terrorism, democracy, or weapons of mass destruction, many believe the real reason behind these conflicts is oil, and more importantly, how that oil is bought and sold. The United States has maintained its global dominance not just through military might, but through the control of currency in the global energy trade. This system, established in the 1970s, has fueled wars, overthrown governments, and determined the fate of nations. This is the petrodollar conspiracy: why wars happen over oil, and how money, power, and control are deeply connected in ways the public is rarely told. For most of history, currency was backed by something of real value: gold or silver. This was the case in the United States until 1971, when President Richard Nixon took the dollar off the gold standard, meaning the U.S. currency was no longer tied to gold reserves. This decision allowed the government to print as much money as it wanted, but it also meant that trust in the dollar could decline if countries stopped using it. To prevent this, the US made a secret deal with Saudi Arabia, the world's leading oil producer. The agreement was simple but powerful. Saudi Arabia, and later the rest of OPEC, would sell oil exclusively in US dollars. In return, the US would provide military protection and support to the Saudi regime. This meant that any country wanting to buy oil had to first acquire US dollars, increasing global demand for the American currency and solidifying its dominance. This system is what we now call the petrodollar system, and it is one of the biggest reasons why the US economy has remained so powerful. But what happens when a country decides it no longer wants to play by these rules? History shows a disturbing pattern. In the early 2000s, Iraq under Saddam Hussein announced it would start selling its oil in euros instead of dollars. Shortly after, the US invaded Iraq under the pretense of searching for weapons of mass destruction, weapons that were never found. The war devastated Iraq, removed Saddam Hussein from power, and in the process ensured Iraq's oil was once again sold in US dollars. A similar fate befell Libya in 2011. Muammar Gaddafi had been working on a plan to create a gold-backed African currency, which would have allowed African nations to bypass the dollar when trading oil and other resources. Western forces, led by NATO, intervened under the claim of protecting democracy. Gaddafi was assassinated, and Libya fell into chaos. The African gold-backed currency was never established. The petrodollar system isn't just about oil, it's about maintaining the US economic empire. Because the dollar is the dominant currency for oil trade, the US can print money without consequence, run huge deficits, and impose economic sanctions on countries that oppose it. Countries like Russia, China, and Iran have tried to escape this system by trading oil in their own currencies or gold. This move is seen as a direct challenge to American financial supremacy. In response, the US and its allies imposed sanctions, trade wars, and even military intervention to ensure compliance. But cracks in the system are beginning to show. As more nations seek alternatives to the petrodollar, the US risks losing its global financial power. If countries stop using the dollar for oil trade, its value could plummet, leading to massive inflation and economic instability. This is why many believe the next major global conflict will not just be about oil, but about the currency used to buy it. The real war is not just for energy, it's for control over the financial system that rules the world. As history has shown, those who challenge the petrodollar often pay the ultimate price. But with the rise of BRICS nations and digital currencies, could we be witnessing the downfall of the petrodollar system? And if so, what does that mean for the future of global power? The world may soon face a financial shift unlike anything we've seen before. The true cost of oil is not just measured in dollars, it's measured in wars, economic control, and the fate of nations. The question is not if the petrodollar system will collapse, but when, and who will be ready when it does.